Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Nice to see you, particularly with a smiling face.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
It's pleasure.
सॉरी कर लेते हैं तो कह देंगे अभी ज्वाइन कर लेंगे.
Dr. Takashi, let us start.
Yes, please.
Okay. Good evening and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you for joining a very important lecture by.
Particularly with a smiling face.
Please mute everyone. Mute everyone. So, good evening and good afternoon, friends. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you for a very important webinar by Dr. Takashi Yamano, who is a principal economist with the Asian Development Bank. And he has chosen to speak on why transforming agriculture is key to the development of Asia, especially India. Dr. Takashi was, a key author of a recently published report from the Asian Development Bank on Asia Development Outlook 2020, which is an update for transforming agriculture in Asia. So he was one of the key authors of this particular report, and very useful report. It is available in the net, so you can also download and read this book. Gives a overview of the entire agriculture scenario in Asia, especially during COVID period. And you all are aware that agriculture in Asian countries, including India, is transforming. But the COVID-19 and then subsequent, problems, the pandemic, the lockdown affected all the sectors, including agriculture. But it has been experienced that agriculture was least affected in all the countries in South Asia or Southeast Asian countries or East Asian countries, so least affected, and became a major source of economic growth in all the countries, in all the Asian countries. Indian agriculture and most of the South Asian countries are already facing several challenges. And this COVID-19 further aggravated the problems, both in the production side as well as in the marketing side. If we look to the Indian context, that our Honorable Prime Minister set a vision for India for future. There are four broad vision. I'll just list those. There are several, but four are very important. One is making India a $5 trillion economy by 2024-25. If we have to be, $5 trillion economy, that agriculture must transform. The second is doubling farmers' income by 2022. So for doubling income, also agriculture must transform. And third is self-reliant India. That's the Atmanirbhar Bharat, that we become independent in majority of the commodities. And we have surplus in most of the agricultural commodities, and we have started exporting those commodities. And fourth vision is local for global, identifying the local commodities which were not explored in the past. So identifying those commodities and branding them for the global market. So these are the four broad areas. And if you have to achieve these four goals, agriculture must transform very rapidly, not the current pace. It has to be transformed rapidly. And we need to do business in a different way. The business as usual will not work for transforming agriculture at a very rapid rate. And for that, we need modern technologies, we need effective policies, we need effective institutions for linking farmers with the both input as well as output markets. And we also need appropriate infrastructure. So technology, institutions, policy, and infrastructure will play very key role. And today's lecture or today's webinar by Dr. Takashi will dwell on some of these issues, and will also provide some of the solutions how to transform agriculture in Asian countries as well as especially in Indian context. So it's my pleasure, Dr. Takashi, to welcome you for today's this seminar, and thank you very much for accepting our request to deliver the talk to NAS Fellowship and all the distinguished delegates who are joining this this particular webinar. Our Honorable President, Dr. T. Mahapatra, he is busy in some meeting right now, but he has asked to start the proceedings, and he will be joining at any time once he is over with the meeting. I take this opportunity to welcome our Vice Presidents, Dr. J.C. Katyal and Dr. A.K. Singh, both the Vice Presidents, Dr. U.S. Singh, our Foreign Secretary, and the executive members of our academy. So I welcome all of them. It's my pleasure to welcome all the distinguished fellowship who are joining from different parts of India, and many of the participants, especially from Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, and Japan, they are joining this particular webinar. So it's my pleasure to welcome all of you for joining this very, very important webinar. So before we request Dr. U.S. Singh to introduce our distinguished speaker, Dr. Takashi, I will request Dr. A.K. Singh, our Vice President, to give the initial remarks. Dr. A.K. Singh, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Joshi. At the outset, I would also like to add my own words of very warm welcome to Dr. Takashi Yamano, who is the principal economist in ADB. Manila, for taking out time from his schedule to share his experiences about the transformation that agriculture is expected to go through, as was mentioned by Dr. Joshi. I would also like to welcome our Vice President, Dr. J.C. Katyal. We have some executive members, Dr. Chauhan, I can see. We have Dr. U.S. Singh with us. And I expect many of our fellowship to be participating in this webinar. And a very, very warm welcome to our participants from Bangladesh, Dr. Munan, Dr. Tariq Hassan, from Dr. Tayan Gurung from Bhutan, and I expect some people from Nepal also. I think the topic that has been chosen by Dr. Takashi Yamano is very, very relevant to the Asian region. Dr. Joshi has highlighted the sort of agriculture transformation that is being planned for Indian agriculture. And as you all know, probably all of you are aware that Asia has 60% of the global population. And of course, we all know that it has got two of the largest populated nations in the world, China and India. And they have to obviously produce enough to feed that 60% of the planet's population. And if you look at the resources that are available, whether it is China or India, in both cases, both the land and natural resource, water, two natural resources which are relatively scarce compared to other countries. We also have a density population which is the highest in the world. So with all these things, and then as Dr. Joshi mentioned, there are a lot of challenges. And Asian Development Bank has been looking into those areas which need to be addressed on priority for many, many years. And as I was being told by Dr. Joshi, I think now they are trying to integrate the agriculture productivity, market connectivity, and resilience against shocks in climate change, and particularly with a focus on the small farmers, so they can access the market, because as was mentioned by Dr. Joshi, one of our targets is doubling the farmers' income and also 5 trillion economy, in which we expect the Indian agriculture to contribute about $1 trillion US. And of course, ADB also focuses on innovative knowledge and technology transfer to all these small farmers. Asia, as a continent, as you all know, that 90% of rice is produced and consumed, and this was one of the crops which was In fact, the two countries, India and China, were blamed for contributing to the greenhouse gases. And this is one crop which requires maximum amount of water, supposed to contribute to methane emission. And so there's again a challenge. Asian continent also has probably the largest coastline. And something which we are not really paying that much attention is what the sea level rise is going to affect all these coastal districts, which also contribute very significantly to the agriculture production system. We also have in both these countries, and in fact, Asia in general, the farm size, farm holdings are again very, very small compared to the Western world. So that is why probably the agriculture has to be really transformed so that these farmers can produce more and produce it with some profit. So I think we are looking forward to Dr. Yamano's lecture, giving us ideas what should be the action taken in the future so that we can feed this 60% of the population in an environmental friendly manner, and of course, take care of the profitable agriculture activities of the small and margin farmers in particular. So with these words, I would thank Dr. Takashi Yamano once again for agreeing to deliver this lecture. We are all looking forward to your lecture and to the ideas which will help in formulating some action plan so that the transformation agriculture can make a difference to the small and margin farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Singh, for your opening remarks. Thanks a lot. Now I'm requesting Dr. U.S. Singh, the Foreign Secretary of the Academy, to introduce the main speaker of today. I thank you, Dr. U.S. Singh, for initiating this process, contacting Dr. Takashi, and making him to deliver this particular seminar. Thank you so much. So you just introduce for our fellowship and our audience about Dr. Takashi, although he is a very known personality, known to everyone. But for those who are not for the subject, you may introduce him.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Joshi. It's my real pleasure, basically, to introduce Dr. Takashi, although many of you might be knowing him well. Actually, we worked together for a considerable period of time when he was based. He was working for International Rice Institute. So at that time, we were working together as a team. And as you already know, that Dr. Takashi is presently working with Asian Development Bank as a principal economist. And his major responsibilities include basically conducting the economic research and review the projects, particularly for their economic feasibility, the projects which are being supported by the ADB. And basically, he graduated in agriculture engineering from Hokkaido University in Japan. Then his post-graduation, he basically did in the agriculture economics from the same university. And then in 2000, he obtained a joint PhD degree in economics and agriculture economics at Michigan State University. And after completing the university with this PhD, he joined the same university as visiting assistant professor and served there for about a year. And then he shifted to the World Bank as a consultant, and he did wonderful work. And his work at that time was awarded by the American Association of Agriculture Economists. Then from 2002 to 2011, he worked as a professor at the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies in Japan, in Tokyo, Japan. And simultaneously, he was also working as a professorial fellow at Foundation for Advanced Studies on International Development in Tokyo. At basically GRIPS, he taught several courses at master's and PhD level, where many students were mid-career government officers from Asia, Africa, and the Japan. And he advised 18 master's students at the GRIPS for their research work. From 2011 to 17, he worked as impact assessment specialist at International Rice Institute. And during this period, he spent at least half of the duration at IRRI. He was based in India, and he was working for the entire South Asia. And at IRRI, he was leading a group of impact assessment and rice technology among farmers in Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Myanmar, and Philippines. And while he was based in India, he initiated a program on rice varietal tracking using the very novel approach that involved not only the survey, but also the sample collection and DNA fingerprinting to confirm the real identity of the varieties. And this project he continued to lead even after shifting from this place to the headquarters. And he has got the number of publications, more than 34 research papers. He has edited 4 books and written a number of book chapters. And he worked in several countries in Asia and Africa, and particularly Bangladesh, India, Laos, Kyrgyz Republic, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan. In Africa, he was working at Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, Zambia, and Mozambique. He had a project at these locations, and he has several awards to his credit. So without taking any more time, now I request Dr. Takashi for his presentation on transforming agriculture in Asia, as all of us are eagerly waiting for that. Dr. Takashi, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Umesh, for a very kind and detailed introduction. Thank you very much. And this is my honor to be invited and then given the opportunity to present our reports. I thank the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences and secretaries for inviting me to this occasion. Dr. P.K. Josh, Dr. Sin, and Dr. Umesh, thank you for the introduction. And so, as Dr. Umesh said, I spent 3 years in New Delhi, so it's very great to see you all and very happy to be back only through virtually. Let me then pull up my presentation. As mentioned before, this is based on publication that ADB, Asian Development Bank, recently published September this year. It's a thematic chapter in our flagship report called the Asian Development Outlook, and it covers a large scope transforming agriculture in Asia. So it's not only specifically India, but entire Asia. But in my presentation, I add some specific information of India. But as all you know about India, please take this as a big picture presentation, putting India in an Asian context. Okay. So outline of this report, we talk about challenges that the Asian agriculture face, food demand challenges, demographic challenges, and changing and fragile environment, including greenhouse gas and climate change. And we will talk about innovations to boost productivity and ensure sustainability. As mentioned, we need to make sure that agriculture production remains sustainable. Then we talk about supporting systems that are needed to support Asia's farmers and then support Asia's agriculture to be transformed. Why agriculture? I think I don't need to talk to you about this, but just to justify this topic, agriculture is still a very important sector in Asian economies, and Asian agriculture has provided stable supplies and affordable food and freed up labors for industry in the past. And it still employs, on average in Asia, 1/3 of workforce. And in rural area, rural poverty is still remain high in Asia. According to some studies, 70%, above 70% of regions poor live in rural areas. And rapid economic changes are taking place at a massive scale in some fast-growing Asian countries, including India. And then there are emerging issues such as climate change and now COVID-19 pandemic. So these emerging issues demand public responses. ADB has published this report in last September, as I mentioned. First, I will talk about challenges that Asia faces. I start with demand challenges. This shows that the changes of total calorie intake in Asia. On the right-hand side, we see Republic of Korea, Japan. So basically, the Korea and Japan, we have reached at the saturation level below 3,000 kilocalories, and China is reaching that area. India, in the past, from 1976 to 2018, it has increased consumption, per capita consumption very rapidly, along with other Asian countries. Now, reaching a very high level of total calorie intake, Asia is that the consumers are consuming more animal-based products. On the left-hand side, it shows that animal meat consumption, although Asian countries' animal meat consumption is still below the other advanced economies consumption level, still many Asian countries are increasing the animal meat consumption. In the case of India, though, it still remains low because of the Indian consumers' preference against meat. On the right-hand side, and this is very Asia-specific, Asian consumers consume a lot of seafood. So compared with advanced economy outside of Asia, on the right corner, Asian countries are increasing its seafood consumption. India's case, it still remains low, but it is increasing. And the production of seafood, now it's include aquaculture. Aquaculture, some of aquaculture production is produced on land, not in the water, on land. So that aquaculture production is increasing. That increased aquaculture production is supporting increasing seafood consumption. I will talk about that later. But these increasing consumption of animal-based products raise some concerns on the sustainability. This graph shows that how much resources are needed to produce different types of agriculture products per million kilocalories consumed. On the far right, you see beef. So the beef production requires a lot of resources per million kilocalories, right? The green is the total land required. Blue is total water required. And then gray is the total greenhouse gas emitted from the beef production. So you can see that, per million kilocalories, the beef has a high level of water need and also a high level of greenhouse gas emission. Other livestock, animals, sheep, goats, dairy, poultry, these also require a lot of land, water, and emit high level of greenhouse gas. On the left-hand side, we have plant-based products. You can see sugar, roots, maize, palm oil, wheat, rice, soybean, fruits, vegetable, and pulses. If we look at the per kilocalorie consumed, these products have low level of requirements. So, however, Asian consumers consume a lot of rice, a lot of wheat, and a lot of these plant-based products. So in total, the required land, required water, and also the greenhouse gas from rice field becomes very high. So that's the next slide. So for today's presentation, I produced a resource required based on the average consumption, as you said, total consumption in Asia, in India. So India, in terms of livestock, animal-based, so dairy products consumption is very high. So for the consumption of dairy products, like ghee, butter, milk, so green is how much land is required. Please note that this is not based on the production in Asia. This is based on the consumption in Asia. So from production, we add imported, how much resources needed for the imported products, dairy products, and then subtract how much resources are needed for the export for the products. So this is based on the consumption. So dairy has, for the dairy products consumption, India needs a high level of land, water, and then also emit greenhouse gas. So as you can see that as the income goes up in Asia and consuming more animal products, we expect to see more resource required. On the plant-based, the wheat and rice has high consumption level. So that's why we see a significant amount of land area required, water required, and a high level of greenhouse gas from rice. India has become the world's largest rice exporter. So if we take production, this rice production greenhouse gas would be higher, right? So we take that the exported amount, subtract the exported amount. That's why it's a little bit low. But if we think about the production side, these bars would be higher for rice. Okay, so so this is the current situation in India, and we expect to see more resources required as India's population increase. So despite the increased consumption of food, we still find a high level of malnutrition among children in Asia. This graph shows the proportion of children under 5 who suffer from stunting, short of the height. On the left-hand side, you see Timor-Leste, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, Marshall Island, and India is here. We see this is according to 2019 data, and we see that in total, green one, about more than 30% of children suffer from stunting. In urban area, the proportion is low. However, in the rural area, proportion is high. And as I will discuss next, still rural population is high in India. That's why the average is closer to the rural level. So it is important to address this issue of stunting. It's not only about availability of food, it depends on what children consume, so what they eat. So that's very important to address the stunting issue. And also the knowledge of mothers and family is also very important. So on the demographic side, the second challenge I'd like to talk about demographics. Although not so much in India yet, but in East Asia, including China and other advanced economies, we see a rapid decline of rural population. In fact, in the Asia as a whole, absolute number of rural population has already started declining, although total population is still increasing. So on the left-hand side, you see that the blue line is the total population, rural population. And you can see that it started declining gradually around 2000. And then the gray line is the total population. So it is increasing, and it's increased to 4.5 billion people by 2050. The rural population has started around 80% in 1970, Now it's declining, and it's now around half, 50%, but it's expected to decline to 40%. Some countries would see much drastic decline of rural population in coming years. In India, on the right-hand side, it's very much closer, look like the ones we see on the left-hand side. Although rural population is around the peak, it's probably still increasing, but it's around the peak, and soon in India also, we will see a declining rural population. And then in terms of share, it's been decreasing gradually or rapidly. And now it's about 60%, but will soon decline to 50% or so by 2050. So this declining rural population means that also declining worker available in rural area, especially young people are moving to urban areas, as you know, so that the age of farmers is increasing. In the reports we didn't have India specific, but we had Bangladesh, and you can see that proportion of agricultural workers in age category 15 to 30 is about 23.7%, 30 to 39, 40 to 49, and you can see that more than half of the workers, agricultural workers in Bangladesh, is 40 or above. If we compare this with other countries have much larger portion of older farmers. The other extreme at the bottom is the Republic of Korea. You know, the population of workers 60 or above is about 70%, right? So 69.9%. So that's about 70% of the agriculture workers in South Korea is 60 or above. A very small number of young people in that population. So this aging of farmers is becoming very critical issues in South Korea, Japan, and other country. China is rapidly moving that way, and other countries, also Sri Lanka, Thailand, is moving in that direction. So decreasing the agriculture workers, especially young people, it will be a challenge in the future. So the third challenge for Asia is climate change. As you know, changing precipitation and also the more heavy rains and long-lasting droughts affects the agriculture production, and that leads to production loss, that leads to low agriculture productivity, and that may threaten food security in the region. This picture that shows that the changes of precipitation in the last 50 years from 1959 to 2019. So this is not a projection, this is observed change in precipitation. And the dark brown is the significant decrease of the rain or the precipitation. And you can see in the southern part of India have experienced a decrease of the precipitation. And in other countries, there are more severe impacts in northern Thailand, Myanmar, that area, and also in other areas have seen that increased precipitation. But so this is expected to continue because of the climate change, and that will have both long-term impact and then short-term impact in terms of the flood and drought. And as you can see, as you see in the news every day now, there are many major floods happening. And next slide here is showing the the importance of floods and then water shortage and the other extreme. So the point of this is on the left-hand side, there is a bar, and then this shows that area rural population under water stress. And so the gray is the others, meaning that outside of Asia, it's mostly Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, which has a large area under the water stress. So if we talk about area, the Asia's area underwater stress is very low, on 20%. However, if we talk about population who can be affected by the water stress is on the right bar. And you can see because of the population density in the rural area, that the people who can affected by water shortage is very high in Asia. It's more than 90%, around 90% of the people who are facing water shortage is in Asia. And then the large part is in South Asia, which is the green one. Okay, so so this shows the importance of water in this region. But on the other hand, so this is water stress. But when we talk about the flood, because of the same logic can work in the in terms of floods along the river. There is a very high population density, so that's why once the floods happens, many people gets affected by the floods. So the extreme weather from the climate change affects large number of people in the rural area. Either it's floods or either it's droughts. The impact in terms of the human impact, the economic impact, Asia suffers a lot from the climate change. And because I work for Asian Development Bank, which invests in a lot in the irrigation systems, one way to protect people from floods and other droughts impact is investing in the infrastructure like irrigation systems. We make the irrigation system more resilient against floods. So that's one way to do that, and we encourage the collaboration of private sector and the public sector, and private-public the collaboration is becoming more and more important in this area, and new ways of saving water, such as water pricing, sustainable use of water, volumetric water charging, or alternate wetting and drying water management for the rice production. These new mechanisms are important. Although I don't have time to talk about it now, but in the reports, we talk about these pilot programs of the volumetric water charging, and then also have a box story of the AWD water management for rice production. So the key points up so far is that rising income urbanization are driving up regions' food consumption, and this is increasing demand for resource-intensive production, which needs attention. Despite plentiful food supply, malnutrition persists, and so we need more assistance to address this issue. And COVID-19 has worsened hunger in the region, and so we need additional 78 million people in developing Asia may fall into extreme poverty. This may reverse some of the progress we made. So we need to address these issues. The next is, so these are challenges, now the innovations. So small farmers that dominates agriculture, Asian agriculture, as you know, Asia is home to 350 million smallholders, which they each, they have less than 5 hectares per farm. They own and cultivate the majority of the farmland in Asia. China, about large proportion has cultivated less than 2 hectares. In India, 80% of farmers are small farmers, as you know, and it depends on the definition of small farmers. But it's for sure that many of them are smallholders. One way to increase productivity is to use machines. And so in Asia, So on the left, the vertical line is the labor productivity, land productivity, and on the horizontal line is the labor productivity. So moving from left to right shows that moving to higher labor productivity. And then the size of the circle measures that the amount of machines used in a country. So on the right-hand side, you can see Malaysia, and you can see that Malaysia has increased labor productivity by adapting more machines. And so did China, PRC. It's increased the circle, they used more machines and increased labor productivity. India is following, although still it's a bit, compared to China and Malaysia, the level is still low, but it is increasing the machine use and increasing labor use. And so is Bangladesh and other countries. So using machine is important. And so in the report, we talked about how to do this. And in India, as you know, and other countries, service providers are providing machine service to smallholders. Smallholders, it doesn't make sense for them to buy machines. So the service providers come in with machines and provide the machine services. We have several stories in the report. So that is working. The next option is for the farmers to have a group and have a producer group and then own the machines and then use the machines. And also farmers are also arranging their activities so that it is easier for the use of machines. So several options are going on, testing, and so that may work out in some countries. Okay, so so sorry, I have to skip many issues because we cover a large number of issues. I'd be happy to answer some of the questions at the end. So let me finish my presentation. So one thing we focused in this report is the aquaculture. So aquaculture is the production of fish in the managed way, either on the coastal line or on the land. And this graph shows that the blue at the bottom, light blue and dark blue, this is the fish catchment in the open water. So in the sea and the open water. So the bottom blue, light blue and large blues are catchment. And the large blue, dark blue shows the Asia of water catchment. As you can see that the fish catchment stays stable in the last several decades because of the restriction of fish, and then the overfishing, there's not enough fish. So instead now the green, light green and dark green, you can see the rapid increase of the dark green. This is the aquaculture production in Asia at the top. And so you can see that in Asia, aquaculture production is rapidly increasing. So basically, in the last 2 decades, increased consumption of fish products comes from aquaculture. And if we talk about where the aquaculture is happening, India is the number 3, third largest aquaculture producers in Asia. The largest producer is China. So at the bottom, the orange. And then the next, second largest is Indonesia. In Indonesia also aquaculture is rapidly increasing. So this increase of the aquaculture started from basically around 1990s. So the Asia is leading it. Let me go back. So as you can see it, this light green is outside of Asia's aquaculture, so not much. So Asia is leading it. And as you can see it, it is still increasing in recent years. So we expect to see much, continuing increase of aquaculture production in Asia. And this has raised, however, some environmental concerns, because aquaculture production in the coastal area destroys the mangroves forests, and then affect the coastal area environment. Inland aquaculture also uses water, and then the water may contain some chemicals that may pollute the area, land around the pond. So this rapid increase of aquaculture has raised concerns of environmental concerns. However, in many countries, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, government, China, governments putting regulations, and producers taking new technologies and then reduce the environmental impacts. Now, how did they do that? One way is that they used digital technologies. On the left-hand side, you can see that the aquaculture producer using mobile phone taking photo of shrimps and sending this photo to expert. An expert check the shrimp health and then give guidance to the shrimp farmers and giving some advice on how to raise shrimp healthy. And on the right-hand side, you see a shrimp farmer using Facebook or other WhatsApp group and other SNS groups, and they exchange technical information. Now, extension in this, especially in aquaculture, private extension service like this is rapidly expanding, and then the aquaculture farmers are using this information. Not only this technical digital technologies, but the checks of the remaining chemicals in the fish products, such as antibiotics. The test is becoming available in Thailand. The test of the remaining residual chemicals in shrimp and aquaculture products is for free. So in Thailand, aquaculture farmers can send their products to the public testing, and then testing is free. So that has reduced the remaining residual chemicals in the products. So this the testing is becoming more and more available. That is helping farmers to remove residual chemicals in the fish products, and also testing water to see if the water is polluting and the soil and so on. So, okay, the key points. So small farmers and modest, suffer still dominates in agriculture in Asia, and they need access to technologies such as machines. For using machines, land rental markets must function. Service provisions of the agriculture machines needs to be provided. Other innovative approaches are needed to help farmers to increase productivity. And you may think of the chemical fertilizer and other materials, but in this report, we focus more on the machine use because this chemical use has increased already. So to address the labor shortage, the machine use is one important component. And aquaculture needs better management for sustainability. Aquaculture provides about 52% of fishery production worldwide. Asia dominates. Because agriculture is relatively new and expanding very rapidly, the regional governments needs to monitor it and promote sustainable production and post-harvest practices. And here, the private sector is also important. Finally, so we talked about agriculture production and aquaculture, but outside of agriculture, supporting systems are needed, especially for the climate change. The monitoring system is extremely important. So this is an example of a study by the Dr. Murari at ICRISAT. So this is showing that identifying spatial distribution of droughts in Myanmar from 2017 to 2018 using advanced spatial information technologies, and using advanced spatial information technologies and satellite images, they identified the area where the drought is happening. So the green is very good cropping, brown is the mild droughts, and red is the severe droughts, and identifying in the monsoon season, winter season, summer season. And I think you are all familiar with this technology. And this technology is becoming more and more with high resolution, more accurate and reliable. And so many countries are using. And one way of using this technology, as you know, is for the crop insurance. And this is particularly a case in India, Madhya Pradesh, and October 2020. And using these advanced information systems, they identified area where that the severe stress has occurred. And this information can be used by the insurance programs. And so that insurance companies can pay back farmers based on this information. So this can shorten the period from the claim that the farmer provided to the settlement of the claim. So this is an example of Madhya Pradesh in India, but this is also expanding in other countries in Asia. Although still the number is low, and this has a long, can expand more. And with the advancement of the technology, we think this will expand quickly. One addition that I forgot to mention, as you already know, that these technologies can use for the early warning systems for the droughts and floods. And studies have shown that not only the early warning with the additional provision, for example, additional provisions to the shelters for the farmers before the flood happens, or the cash assistance to farmers during the drought, not after the drought, but during the drought. So if this early warning systems, if it's combined with additional assistance, it can be very effective. So the key point, the climate change poses a great challenge to agriculture in Asia. With climate change, the frequency and scales of extreme weather events are escalating and increasing. So this is important. Resilient investment in resilient infrastructure such as irrigation systems is very important, but also the early warning systems can offer cost-effective protection. Advanced spatial informations are critically important. The crop insurance can help farmers to help recover from the extreme weather events, but it's still the insurance programs have started to use information systems that they need to be strengthened across Asian countries. Especially what's lacking right now is the skills, the peoples who have skills to use advanced spatial information. So this is why we are now, Asian Development Bank, we are now providing training programs in Pakistan and in other countries for the government officers and then technicians to improve their technical skills to use spatial information systems more effectively. Okay. So I'm getting to the last part. So to transform agriculture in Asia, the policies needs to have two sets. One is innovation, supporting innovations. So as we have seen it, aquaculture production has expanded, and this has helped Asian consumers to consume seafood product. But this is mainly private sector promotion. And then, but it needs government regulations, more government regulations, and then more needs more checks on the environmental impact. And to expand access to machines for small farmers, we need innovative arrangements such as provision from the professional providers. Improved technology practices are needed, as we know from this group. Outside of agriculture production system, we need comprehensive systems to help agriculture production, investing in early warning systems, climate resilience infrastructure, and then help the development of national crop insurance schemes and make it more effective. Probably private sector involvement is very important in this area. The focus agriculture policy, we need to away from subsidy programs to support production, but more market-oriented innovation encouraging policies. Finally, so Asian agriculture needs to adapt new technologies and systems that I mentioned. In Asia, 1/3 of our workers are still employed in agriculture, and estimated 4 out of 5 people live in rural areas. 5 poor people live in rural areas. Sustainable food production, agriculture system that's resilient against climate change is important. Finally, so not only Asia, India itself, but the regional economies, like in this case, South Asia, regional corporations needs to be important, such as sharing seed and technologies and helping information, sharing information. So such regional collaboration is important against the ongoing shifts in demand, demography, and climate change. Thank you very much. Let me stop here, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Takashi, for excellent presentation and very thought-provoking lecture. So I will request Dr. A.K. Singh to open the presentation. We may ask our participants to raise questions, and they just raise their hand, and or they can send in the chat box or what.
I think, thank you, Dr. Joshi, and thank you very much, Dr. Amano, for an excellent lecture and giving us many pointers towards what changes we expect in the agriculture scenario. This is now open for discussion. You can raise your hand and we'll request you, or you can also give your question in the chat box, so we will ask. So it's open for discussion now. Dr. Prakash Rao, you want to say something?
You unmute yourself.
We can't hear you.
Unmute yourself. We can't hear you, Doctor. Unmute है, आवाज नहीं आ रही. We can't hear you, Doctor.
We're not able to hear you, Dr. Prakash Rao. You can
write in the chat box. So we will read it and then.
While we look at any other.
Vidya.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yeah, now you can hear me. Yes.
Now we can hear.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. I have got 3 questions to Dr. Takashi. Number 1 is that he has projected that India is among the countries, Asian countries, which is going to be water stressed in future. And at the same time, he has shown that India is the largest exporter of rice. That means the India is exporting a lot of water away from the country. So what will be the water economics in future when such a policy of export of this commodity takes place? That is my first question. The second question is, rather comment is that whether Asian Development Bank has looked at the possibility of using artificial intelligence and big data for facilitating the farm activities of smallholders in Asia. Number three is that regional conflicts, especially in the high seas, where the fish harvest can be jeopardized by certain activities happening in Asia Pacific region, how it will impact the fish production and then consumption and economics of people. And finally, if the conflicts escalate, how the budgetary allocations to agriculture will be impacted. Thank you very much.
You can collect the questions. So we'll have questions first, and then he can respond. So 4 questions we can take.
Any other?
Gurung, Dr. Gurung, Tan Gurung.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joshi. Namaskar. Hi, Takashi-san. Very interesting presentation. I have 2 specific, I think I should say, comment. One is you had a very elaborate explanation for many things, but you seem to be very silent on an issue of the value chain, because the recent incidents of COVID pandemic across globe, or more specifically in Asia, we saw the effect on the value chain itself, not the production, because production, there were reports that production was not really impacted so much as many people talk about, but value chain seemed to be very fragile, and the fragility of value chain seemed to have been affected. So I don't know why it was not explained. So maybe there are reasons which you will be explaining. The second one is on the digitalization of agriculture. You said something about not as elaborate as I was expecting that you would talk about, as the earlier commenter said about the big data and the use of ITs in a more elaborate way to enhance the agriculture development. So thank you very much.
Dr. Manan. Dr. Manan.
Dr. Manan, please.
Dr. Manan, you have to unmute. Dr. Manan.
Dr. Manan, please unmute if you were to.
Meanwhile, I will read the question by Dr. Arvind Pade. Dr. Arvind Pade has given one question. First, he has complimented you for excellent presentation. Then he raised that what are your thoughts on research and innovation investment in Asia to tackle all the kinds of challenges? Dr. Tariq Hassan is also there. He is raising his hand.
Thank you very much. It is my pleasure to have the opportunity to participate in this sort of discussion, and I fully follow that the comprehensive presentation by Takashi, encompassing the whole continent and the area, Southeast Asia as a whole, probably deserves extra consideration for Bangladesh also, which he has already mentioned. But I wonder, one of the areas that probably he probably tried to mention, but I could not follow it. Is there any scope of AI, artificial intelligence, in the pursuit of mitigating the climate change impact on agriculture as a whole in the subsectors of fishery, livestock and agriculture, crop sector actually. As a matter of fact, his presentation on mechanization and budgeting of irrigation and water budgeting probably demands a due consideration in our context in Bangladesh. So I will be happy if there is any special findings or recommendations on Bangladesh so that we can adhere, we can follow, or we can try to adapt. I think at the moment I thank Dr. Takashi for having us the opportunity to the exposure of his vast knowledge and the areas throughout the Asian region. Thanks so much.
I need another question. So there is one more question, Dr. Takashi. It's from Dr. Gopala Krishnan. He has again complimented for excellent presentation to you. The question is there any suggestion to address the public concern on farm labor displacement due to increased mechanization? So, Dr. Katyal, you also want to ask something? You are mute, sir. You are mute. Yes.
My congratulations to the speaker, an excellent presentation. And he has covered most of the issues related to innovative agriculture. I will bring only one point. He said about the climate change and demographic shifts. They are important. But for solutions which he has suggested, they refer to early warning systems for climate change, crop insurance to build resilience, or some other areas. But there is one thing which is very important for risk proofing actually in agriculture, or creating risk, or creating risk proofing infrastructure, is the capacity building, knowledge systems. I think there was mention of that kind of systems. Knowledge systems are very, very important, and capacity building, the farmer ability to use that. I think I am audible. My question is very clear. Maybe we need to add that part. Is it okay, Dr. Joshi? Are you audible?
Yeah. Climate change and capacity
Your
building.
views on capacity building.
Yes.
You can respond.
So now I think we have received enough questions and queries. So I now request Dr. Takashi to respond to them.
Okay.
Yeah, please
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for many questions, and then these are very challenging questions. Let me try one by one. First, on the India water stress. The water stress is becoming serious issues not only in India, especially the northwest side of India, and also the south parts of the south part of India, and where that underwater is used, and the underwater depletion is becoming important. As an economist, the fundamental issue is that the pricing of water is not volume based. The irrigation fees farmers may pay, but the irrigation fees that the farmers pay may be subsidized, or it's the area based fee, so it doesn't matter how much water farmers use. The only cost that it's based on the volume is the fuel use. If the farmers are using the pumps, then they use the fuels, and they pay the fuel which is correlated with the volume. However, in many areas, the volumetric pricing is not adapted. In our report, we have several examples of use of volumetric pricing of irrigation water. For that, irrigation system needs to measure the water. In China, the group of farmers use the same the volume, and they divide the price among them. So that the pilot project is ongoing. In other countries, Bangladesh, in the Philippines, there are some experiments of using volumetric pricing. but it requires the facility, equipment to measure the volume, and have the irrigation system needs to be the advanced irrigation system. So that is becoming, there are some tests. However, it's not widely adopted. So that's, unless we address economic incentive of the water, scarce water efficiency, it will become it remain as a problem. So so that can be a solution, but it's still long way to go. And in our report we have discussion. AI, use of AI and big data, of course, it will come. The AI is used in the advanced spatial information. The identification of the impact of climate on agriculture production. Now it uses AI, and identification of crop in each area using high resolution. It uses AI and machine learning. And I collaborate with ICRISAT scientists to apply AI system in the advanced spatial information systems, satellite image analysis. So in different parts, AI is used, but it's widespread use in farmer is still a long way to go. I know that in Japan, the tractors now have very advanced computer in it, system in it, but it's not yet used, not widely used in Asia, probably in China, but I'm not aware of. The high level of sea and salinity issues is very important especially in Bangladesh, and this is important issues. But we don't have, unless other than the saline tolerant crops development, I don't know any other solution. Okay. So let me just go through quickly the one important issue, value chain. In our report, we discussed, we have some box stories on value chain, especially use of digital technology in value chain in China. Now it is becoming very common practice for the consumers to buy agriculture products using the digital and digital technologies, and now traders are using digital technology in value chain. So the value chain is important, and it has been affected by COVID. Because limited space, we intentionally decided not to cover too much, because it would take many pages, and it's depends on the areas, and it seems that it's in China, it's widely it is very important, and in other area it's becoming, but we don't have wide level, macro level data on value chain, and the lack of the data is one issue for us to write in the report on value chain. So digitalization I mentioned. So Doctor, in the comments on the R&D, as a person who I worked for ED for many years, 7 years, I believe in the research and innovation is important. So it is very critical. However, for this report is for the general audience, and we didn't want to include too technical. So so we skipped discussions of research and development, but this is critically important. And then, the budget support for public, especially public research, is declining, and that's sad. And we need to increase the investment in especially public research activities. Okay, so I think finally, the climate change and solutions, capacity building, I agree with you. The capacity building is very important. But as I said in the declining budget for agriculture research, the many research organizations suffering from budget cuts, and then that's also affecting, I believe, the capacity building and on the climate change research related issues. So so that is important to reverse the trend. Also, in terms of climate change solutions, on rice, we have a special box story in reports talking about AWD. As you know, AWD can not only save water, but also can reduce greenhouse gas. So that's one option on the mitigation side of the climate change, reducing greenhouse gas. So more research is needed on that, how agriculture can reduce greenhouse gas emission. And one solution I know is AWD, but the AWD also needs more research and more capacity building of the farmers to understand what to adapt AWD and what the benefits of AWD. Yeah. Okay. So let me stop, and then maybe if there are more questions, I'm happy to address. Yeah, back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Takachai. Thank you so much. Now I request Dr. A.K. Singh for concluding remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Takachaki, for a very excellent lecture. And I think you have touched some of the very vital points that are required, starting from the demand to the, particularly it was interesting that the change in the food habits is going to, force us on intensive agriculture activities, and intensification is again going to create some more problems if we don't focus on the sustainability of the whole issues. One very interesting observation which you made is that both wheat and rice cultivation are having as much impact on the environment as wheat. Normally, we say that if you look at the climate footprints, the vegetarian diet is always having a far less footprint compared to the non-vegetarian. But it was interesting to see that wheat and rice are also contributing a lot. I think you mentioned a very specific issue, which is, of course, affecting almost everywhere, is the aging of farmers. The younger generation is not interested. And then that, of course, we are all trying to attract the youth to agriculture through different ways and means. And that is going to be very important because, as has been mentioned time and again, agriculture is going to be the backbone in the Asian region in particular. And so we cannot really let the agriculture activities be affected. Then you also mentioned about the changing environment. I think a lot of questions were raised on that. Yes, mechanization is one solution, and I think we are all focusing on a lot of mechanization, particularly finding solutions for small and marginal farmers who don't have. We have also tried out many options, and custom hiring centers is one of them. Service providers is there, and that has been wherever they have become popular, they have really paid dividends. But still, I think if you look at the energy-wise, India, China, excepting Middle East, our energy utilization in agriculture is still fairly low and not that efficient. You have also mentioned about the institutional support system that are required. Early warning system is one of them. And I think plus crop insurance. These are two things, again, in India, a lot of stress is being laid on these issues. And I think I would just like to mention that very recently our Honorable Prime Minister has released a lot of climate resilient varieties. And last year on World Foods Day, there were a lot of biofortified varieties released at the national level. Basically, because you talked about malnourishment, and India has, unfortunately, the largest population of malnourished children and women, and that is again an issue which certainly needs to be addressed on priority. You also mentioned about innovative practices, solutions, and which are important. You particularly mentioned about the aquaculture and the environmental impact it is having, and which needs to be regulated properly. I think that's very important. And this is again one sector in India which is progressing and developing very fast, the aquaculture sector. And of course, you mentioned about value chain. And I think you also provided some solutions, particularly related to water use. We all know that water is a very important input, and many of these Asian countries are having far less water available per capita than is actually required. And there are a lot of experiments, but then there are many decisions which are taken at a political level, and so we are unable to really take action on how to make it work, like water pricing is one of them. And a lot of, I think for several decades, a lot of talk has been there among the scientists how to make water use efficient practices being adopted. We are thinking a lot of environmental services, if there's ways and means in which we can, sort of provide some incentive to ecosystem services to farmers who adopt these water use or nutrient use technologies. And so I really cannot dare to summarize what you have presented in 45 minutes, but I think so many of these issues are, which you have mentioned, are the types which probably we need. Digitization, of course, in agriculture, without digitization, I don't think it's possible to meet the full requirement with the resources, land and water resources, which are so restrictive. And I think you mentioned China. We are also trying to see that how digital agriculture can be more, popularized in the entire system. And then you also mentioned about the mechanization. I have already referred to that. And again, we are trying to focus on, also in India, we also have quite a lot of farmers who are, cultivating in hill regions where not only the land holdings are very, very small, you really can't have any big machines at all moving in that area. So they need to be also provided some solutions. I think with these words, I would like to express thanks on behalf of the Academy and my own behalf to Dr. Takashi for an excellent lecture, and to many of our foreign delegates who have participated in this webinar. In addition to the fellowship, the office bearers, Dr. Katyal, our Vice President, Dr. Joshi is there, and then Dr. USA. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Takashi.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. Thank you for your concluding remarks. I will request all of you to please unmute yourself, everyone, and also just have your video on so that we can take a picture and you can all clap for Dr. Takashi. So first unmute yourself and give a big hand to Dr. Takashi for his excellent presentation. And also switch on your videos so that we'll take a picture. Please, everyone.
And
yes,
smile.
Yes, now I can see Gurung.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yes,
Nice.
now can we take a picture?
Yes.
Yes, smile, please, everyone.
Dr.
Yes, smile.
Dr. Manan.
Dr. Hassan, where are you? Yes, picture. Yeah. Done?
Thank you very much.
Okay, very nice
And
presentation. And
give a big hand because everyone is unmute. So give a big hand.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much. It was good to hear you after a long time. I think everyone enjoyed your presentation. It was excellent presentation. And as has been mentioned by one of the participants, that it is very timely because most of the South Asian countries are engaged in, reforming their own agriculture sector after this COVID pandemic. India is particularly looking, giving, due emphasis on One Health now, covering all plant, soil, animal, and environment health. Sustainability issues are in the agenda of the government. Then the digital agriculture and climate change are very well in the agenda of the Indian government. So several things are happening at the ground, at the back end as well as in the front end. In the back end, the direct cash transfer to the farmers, the scheme was launched a few years ago. Then agriculture insurance is getting high priority. Agri financing is getting high priority for small and marginal farmers. And there's a technology push. A lot of efforts are there for technology push so that we increase our productivity and reduce the cost of production, especially for doubling income of the farmers. Diversification is given due emphasis so that the farmers go from low remunerative to high remunerative commodities. And the front end, the one nation, one market concept is coming. Where the markets are being connected. The value addition and export promotion is given due emphasis. And also a very big boost is being given to consolidate farmers for production and marketing and processing through a farmer producer organization. So your talk, addressed many of the issues, and I'm sure that these talk will be helpful to all of us in South Asian countries, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, our colleagues are there. So I thank you very much for such a brilliant presentation, and we look forward for more presentations from you and other fellows. I thank Dr. A.K. Singh for chairing this session. Thank you, Dr. Singh. I'm grateful to Dr. Katyal, our Vice President, for joining from Goa. Sir, thank you so much. Thanks to Dr. U.S. Singh for initiating this particular program, and my sincere thanks, profuse thanks to all participants from India, from Bangladesh, from Bhutan, and from Nepal. Thank you so much, and good to see many of the friends from these countries, old friends, and all the fellowship who joined this presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. U.S. Singh.
Thank you, Dr. Kashaki. Thank you. A nice presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Kasi.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Okay. Have a good time.
Thank you very much.
Have a good time.
See you next time.